My name is Gregory MacDonald. Right now, I'm bringing you a conversation that I had with an electric personality, Maria Nassar. Maria and I talked about education. Specifically, we talked through her knowledge and wisdom of running a school system. Now, I don't want to get ahead of myself, but the theme here is that everybody should be on the same team, holding the same standards, and focusing solely on what serves the kids. Anybody who knows Maria knows that she is an absolute leader in the community. Her heart and willingness to help radiates off of her body. I find her to resemble a wonderful example of character. I think I'm going to leave the rest for you to find out. This is one of my favorite conversations as I was constantly mesmerized by what Maria was sharing in person and after watching the recording. I hope you enjoy the time that you have with Maria and I. Thank you so much. We will talk soon. I have Maria here with me.
Hello.
Hi. So Maria is an education consultant, and I'll let her kind of talk about herself for a second.
I fell into education. It really wasn't my path. My path was motherhood. I made the deal with my husband. I was going to stay home, take care of my son. And my parents had this notion that I probably shouldn't just leave college without getting a master's in education, which I did. So I had a master's in education before I met my husband and before I became a mother. And I followed my son to school because God only blessed us with one child. And I kind of wanted to know what the school was teaching, the rhythm of the school, expectations, so I could better help my son be a perfect student. And when I followed him to school, I learned that I was volunteering. I was sorting mail. I was a PTO mom. I did field trips, and I was there every day. They say if you're going to be here every day, you might as well get paid.
Yeah.
So I started as a substitute, paraprofessional, like your mom. And I was working with all sorts of students, special needs, even a blind child, which was magnificent. She was a special person. Then my son was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. And my husband said to me, I know I made a promise. I want you home with PJ full time, but I own my own company and private insurance, health insurance is too expensive. So you have to go back to work full time. And since you have that master's in education, and since you seem to like working almost every day at the school, I was almost working 5 days a week as a substitute at center school, one school. The teachers would book me out weeks in advance if they had appointments or whatever. I said, okay. So I went on a search for a job in Longmeadow because I really wanted to stay in Longmeadow. I thought I learned enough about the school system and what it took to be a good Longmeadow teacher. It was in a difficult time such as now where the budgets are very tight and there wasn't many jobs available. Or, as I found out later, it was more political than what you knew. It's who you knew. And that was kind of disheartening. And my sister said to me, she goes, they're hiring in Chicopee. And I said, okay, I'll apply, but don't let them know I'm your sister. I really want to get this job on my own. I just felt like I worked 3 or 4 years as a long-term sub, worked every day. I think I earned it, I felt like. So I put my application in, and the superintendent for human resources secretary liked my resume. She sent it to my boss, my principal, Mrs. Drugan, and she liked the fact that I had done everything in one school. I was kindergarten para, taught 4th grade, taught health, taught art. That meant I was flexible. She liked the fact that I had a lot of experience in multiple grades. I might be a good fit as a interventionist, which meant it's a term they don't use in a lot of schools, but we intervene to help students. It was a push-in model, which also means that the kids don't roam the hallways. The teachers come to the classroom. And she thought I'd be a good fit because of my experience working in Long Meadow. And she called my principal at Center School because they were reading teachers back in the day together. And he gave me a glowing recommendation saying, Mrs. Nassar will go wherever you wanted to go and do whatever you wanted to do. And I didn't know he said that about me until I was in the interview, because that was the main interview question. I found out later on was if I didn't answer correctly, I wouldn't gotten the job. Do you have a problem doing what I tell you to do and how I tell you to do it? I looked at her. I said, absolutely not. It's your school. I like working for someone. I like having a vision, and I like knowing that we're all on the same path. We're all doing it exactly the same way, and there's no variable. In my mind, that's how I thought about it. And she said, perfect, you're hired. You're going to be a reading specialist. I said, well, I'm certified in elementary, social studies, but middle school, but not reading. She goes, oh, you'll have to go back to school. I said, okay. And my next master's was in reading. And so they call it a CAGS if you have more than one, but they don't do that. They usually, that means special ed. If you have like a regular education and then you get a second master's, they call it a CAGS. But they don't usually do it when you just get a reading master's. So I went back to school and got a reading master's. And that's how I ended up in Chicopee. I was a reading interventionist. I serviced 100 kids a day. They have to imagine you're working in a classroom for an hour, and you worked every grade except for one. So I worked K 1, 2, 3, and 4. I got lucky. I didn't have to do grade 5. But because grade 5, they're like, oh, I'm a middle schooler, that kind of attitude. But it's the younger ones that need you anyway. So you're 10 kids and 10 kids. Now, if you've ever seen a half moon table with 10 chairs around it, there's usually 5 and then 5 behind. The need was that high. We received a Reading First grant under the Bush administration, and that's the student load I carried. Classroom teachers have 25 kids, times it by 4. It's a lot of kids.
Yeah.
But it was soon as we were doing these strategies and techniques that we were trained, like everyone was doing the exact same thing, saying the exact same thing, and doing the exact same thing, that led to pushing kids back into they're not all low kids now. They're able to work on their own. So my groups by I'd say year 2 were 6 and 6 instead of 10 and 10. So the load became lessened, but the work was still the same. My children came with deficits. The classroom teacher had probably almost 30 kids in each classroom. It was an urban school, and it was interesting work. So that's how I got into education.
Beautiful. So something that you highlighted in there that I really want to talk about is that transition. You had said that you got a glowing review, and before you had gone in there, that glowing review got you into Chicopee. And in your prior
It got
work,
me an interview. There's a big difference.
Tell me.
I am happy to call anyone, any colleague that I know that's looking to hire, and if I meet someone who I may know just their mother from playing tennis, but their child is in education. It's not an easy job, but I'm willing to say, just give them an interview. The interview is where it makes or breaks. And a lot of times I used to hire teachers when I became a reading coach at the school. 3 years down the road, I became the reading coach. And I would sit on interviews and interview new interventionists or new classroom teachers or new paraprofessionals. Also came with the job, you're going to train them the way I want to train them, and they're going to do what we tell them to do. So you can tell, and you can't promise someone a job, but you can at least get them an interview. They have to get the job themselves. I've always believed that. They sell themselves. Gut intuition goes into it, part of it. Presentation is part of it. How you come in and how you purport yourself is part of it. But come down to it, this, a good school will always hire someone knowing that you're not flying without training wheels. We will support you, we will train you, we will guide you because we have a model. And the model is not like we all just fly free in here. It's a working cog, and you're going to be part of this wheel, but you're going to have to learn how to be the rhythm of the wheel. So that's
Okay,
part
yeah,
of that.
absolutely, yeah. And all of those parts seem to be something that you use in your daily work in that program, the model, the model that's in the school. So you had gone through other models before going into Chicopee?
They've had failed models, yes.
Okay, failed models.
Many failed models. What I heard before I got there basically was each teacher did what they wanted to do. They
Okay.
would have the same curriculum, which meant they had the same basal or the same reading series. We'll stick to reading, so it'll be one subject that I'm very familiar with, and it's applicable to math or science or social studies. They each had the same textbook, a basal, they call it. And so they each had the same textbook, but when they shut the door, did they introduce the lesson the same way? Did they introduce the vocabulary the same way? Did they use the same visuals? Did they use the same techniques, strategies? Did they break up into small groups? I have to say no, 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 and no.
Yeah.
Did they teach phonics? Probably not. So you had teachers who naturally did those things, and then you had teachers who just had no knowledge to do those things because they came from a school system, much like you did, where they didn't teach explicit phonics. They didn't break words apart. They didn't make the kids morphologists. My kids were morphologists. Morphology is the study of language, and we would say we're going to. One teacher even had safari hats, and the kids said morphologists. But it made it serious. Like
Yeah.
it's a business. This is our job. Learning is a job. I would tell my students all the time, this is your job. You've come to work every day and you're working hard, but this is a job. So I did think they had those kind of failures. And my principal was there and could see what was going poorly, but you didn't have the funds to train everybody. You didn't have the funds to train all the paras or bring in specialty consultants that had that ability to say, okay, or interventions, and then the assessments that guided you to alter your teaching. There wasn't that funding. Reading First came along, opportunity. The funds were, I think, over $500,000 for one little school with 600 students, but we had 25 paras, and I had at least 30 teachers, at least. But it wasn't just getting an intervention and getting everybody trained. There was also, because we had two schools that did the exact same thing. It was very positive in my school, but it didn't do anything for the other school. And the only thing different was, I have to say, it was the social curriculum of empowering the students. We spent a long time with our gym teacher, who was also our health teacher, helping the students be empowered mentally
And this was at Chicopee.
in Chicopee.
Okay. Fantastic. And before we highlight the differences in these two different situations, I recognize that you had seen that there was no pattern or program that was implemented in the beginning. I was wondering if you had taken initiative to make that, or was it those funds that you talked about that were lacking that would make it? But
It was
there?
the funds were tremendous.
Okay.
You can't deny that, because we could train everyone and we all became cohesive. Because basically, I was part of the team. The interventionists didn't have classrooms. And for the first 2 weeks of my job, we went into the classrooms and threw away literally, into the dumpster, any materials that were not going to be part of the new initiative. So teachers couldn't go back to their favorite story or favorite this or favorite that. They either took it home and the whole classrooms were cleaned out. We got new teaching materials. Everything was the same in every classroom. So every ABC board around the classroom was exactly the same. There wasn't any difference. So you walked in from one classroom to another, except for the teacher creating the putting up, you ever been in a classroom where they have color paper on the wall? That's the only thing she allowed them to have choices in the beginning, because everything had to be exactly the same. You're taking paraprofessionals, high school level, maybe associate level people who their kids are in the school maybe, or they needed a job, who never really worked with students before, or if they did, it was more like a babysitting role. Watch the kids, take them to music, walk them back, but never educate, not instructional paraprofessionals.
Yeah.
They had extensive training. They became an integral role in the success of this school. They could teach a class. The teacher could walk out and they could teach the classroom. And that's how powerful that one particular role was. And if you utilize them correctly, because we have 3 adults in a room at every time teaching at really important subjects like math and reading, you really can get a lot of work done when you can break up 30 groups into 3 10s, and the teacher can do, I'm going to do 5 and 5, and you do 5 and 5, and you do 5 and 5.
Yeah.
They had a program called Read Naturally, and basically it was practice repeated readings, which have shown the more you practice reading, that's why I used to tell my students, go home, practice. They used to give them their stories. When they finished their little units, they would take them home, read them to your stuffed animals. I don't care. Repeated reading increases endurance. So students will muddle through a longer text, because without that endurance, you cannot read. If you don't have the love of reading, if someone hasn't read to you every night, encouraged you to go to the library, take out library books, all that kind of stuff that suburban kids are much more exposed to, in an urban setting where maybe the parent works 2 jobs, or there's only one parent, 3 kids, they don't have that time or luxury. Now, I'm not saying it doesn't happen. I'm just saying it often didn't. So the love of reading is not in the forefront in what they need to do. So we had to become teacher/parent, encouraging students to be the best they could do. I think we've discussed this earlier, that we never used negative language. Mm-hmm. We never told them no. We never told them they were wrong. We never told them it was always my fault, our fault. We taught it wrong. We're going to teach it again. How did I do this? It was my fault, or you let me trick you, or I just didn't. Mrs. Nassar didn't get it correctly. It was always something so that we took that pressure off of them, because there was a lot of repeated chances to teach main idea. So if they didn't get it within this one story, we knew that main idea was going to come again. So it wasn't like, what's wrong with you? Because that's what I hear in a lot of schools when I was consulting. You walk in the classroom, the attitude of the teacher is like, you're not paying attention. You don't want to learn. Never was. That was, if you were heard saying anything like that, you would have a good discussion with the principal. Maybe a good recommendation. She never gave anyone a poor recommendation. If you weren't a good fit in our school, you were given a great recommendation to find another job. It was run a certain way. It's very it sounds severe, but it was actually calming, because it wasn't like you were alone on a desert island. You were part of a crew, part of a team, where it was very supportive, and everything you did, you could see the results. It wasn't fast. It took a couple of years, and we had belief. And I remember my principal saying to us, the teachers wanted to teach comprehension. And she's saying, comprehension only comes once children can read. So you can't start teaching or expect to teach deep comprehension skills. That's what they wanted to get to. Teachers love to teach the meaning and the author's person. And it's wonderful. I'm not knocking it. But if they can't read basic sentences, understand punctuation, understand vocabulary, it's worthless. And she goes, and I know you're frustrated, and I know this is a risk. And she goes, and we don't know if this is going to work. And she goes, and the shit may hit the fan, quote unquote, but I'll be standing in front of the fan, she said. You have to trust me. And it took that moment. I remember specifically hearing those words from her, as coarse as they were, for her to say she's going to stick up for us. She's not going to throw us under the bus. If this all goes down the hole, that she was going to stand there and take the heat. She put her job on the line, basically, is what she told us. Changed dramatically, just like that.
You know what's interesting is that kind of reminds me of the way you're dealing with the students in this realm with the attitude. You look at the student, it's not what's wrong with you. It's like, oh, okay, it's my, let's try it again. Same thing with here with the teachers.
The principal took the role, and I can't emphasize that enough, that the principal makes or breaks the school. No doubt about it. Her, and if she's lucky to have a vice principal and a good guidance counselor, adjustment counselor, whatever the new term is, those are key people. If you are lucky to have a curriculum person, I was actually what they call I think they call them instructional coaches now. I was a reading coach because we didn't have a reading and math coach, but we were so focused on reading because reading scores, if they go up, translate to all subject matters.
Okay.
So that person that you call principal, if that person is visible, has a vision, and she basically was our role model. So if you had someone to follow like that you could trust, then we trusted the model, we trusted the training, we trusted the support, because then I was the support person. So I'm walking through the classroom to make sure, is it being delivered correctly? Does the teacher have what she needs to teach? Does the para have what they need to teach? It could be simple thing as little folders for the kids to keep all the materials organized. Oh, I got to make more copies. I'll get more copies for you. I'm in the classroom. You stay here and teach. How many copies do you need? The teachers needed to be in the classroom, not out of the classroom.
Yeah.
The interventionists needed what they needed. They're traveling. Do they need a little pull cart so they could pull their stuff? Do they need a pull cart for every grade level they go to? Every teacher had a different need, but we bought these little materials that you would think like, okay, I didn't think of that. Or can I leave a little cubby in Mrs. So-and-so's room? Like, those drawers that you can just like an organizer?
I do.
Just so I don't have to lug that around? Sure. Bought one for every classroom. Every interventionist, there was a little organizer so they could leave things there for them. Pencils, whatever it was. If it made their job easier, that was where that $500,000 helped. We had these headphones. They were the cutest little, they looked like airline pilots. And they were called whisper phones. Because if kids can't read aloud and can't hear the natural, like read naturally has some repeated practicing, but if you can't read aloud and hear yourself reading, or some kids needed that, especially second language learners, they never really progressed. And we found these whisper phones, and they could, if you talk really loud in it, it hurts your ear. It's so loud. But you whisper, so you whisper reading. And on an MCAS, you can't be talking very loud, but you can whisper read. Some kids needed that. And like little things like that. And so I had a catalog of all these little helpful aids that made this model work, that were ancillary. I mean, totally ancillary. There was like little buttons that you had a sheet, and it was maybe a workstation, and you told them the instructions, but you inevitably, an elementary student has only so many slots, especially boys, memory. And the teacher told me what to do here, but I don't remember, and I can't bother her because unless I'm bleeding or dying, I can't interrupt group. That was a rule in our school.
That's good.
So we had this little push button thing that had a voice recorder, so the classroom teacher could put the instructions on the little voice recorder, and if they forgotten, they just push the button, and it would say them, and they could keep pushing it and keep hearing the instructions until they got it right. These little buttons were, I don't know, $7.99 each, but they made a huge difference for center work. It was the teachers didn't have to keep, doing it over and over again. I told you what to do, and I told you what to do. It took all of that out of the instructional time, because instructional time is the time where you're teaching. Now if you go into a regular classroom and you'll see moving around the classroom, how efficient kids are doing that. It's time to switch groups. We would time them. They had to be efficient. We spend the first, like in kindergarten especially, we spend the first 6 weeks just training them to move from one place to another, because it takes 6 weeks to create a habit that's scientifically proven. So when you take the time in kindergarten to train them to move, you don't have to keep doing it first, second, third, fourth, fifth grade, except for the new kids. But then you always find your kings and your queens, the ones who always are done first, the ones who never seem to have enough work to do because they're probably higher learners, but they're bored. They're the buddy. They're the ones who teach that student. They're using their language. It's almost like a peer teaching. Something you could use in life after you get out of school, how to work with someone else. And so we never had to really worry about new students, because we always knew we had the peer buddies that we used. Some of them were fidgeters. So you go, okay, your job is before we close up shop today, you're gonna be the one that puts the center back. They loved that job because they could move, and some kids needed that. So the teachers recognized that, and they made those adjustments in the classrooms as they saw fit.
Wow, that's a great example of initiative in the students, and that's initiative on your part. What do you think was driving you internally to make these different changes in the school? Because you went from a school system that may have not had this.
Long Meadow is a totally pull-out system, which means if a student needed services, speech services, little support services, maybe special needs services, they had to go to see Mrs. Smith at so-and-so time at so-and-so time. They had a card. You probably remember this because you went to school in Long Meadow. Mm-hmm. They had an index card that was taped to the corner of their desk, and that told them when they needed to go. And a lot of times it was missed, or the teacher said, "You got to go now, Ryan. You have to go." And Ryan would go, "Oh, okay," and he would take off, and he would touch every locker on the way. And some schools in the schools are kind of big. It could take 10 minutes after 2 drinks of water, maybe a bathroom break, to get to Mrs. Smith, who only had 45 minutes with Ryan, and she's on her ed plan that she's seeing him for 45 minutes times 5, but he gets there 15 minutes late, so she's really only seeing him 30 times 5. So when they have a progress meeting and the parents are going, "Well, what's Ryan's not progressing?" "Well, he needs extra support outside of school. Maybe the parents need to pick up the slack." And in a suburban school, they usually say, "Sure, no problem, we'll get him a tutor, or we'll do that." Well, in an urban setting, you don't have that luxury. You don't have parents who can do that or take the time to do the homework with them. We hardly sent homework home. The center work was really like homework. Like, if you know what I mean, like the homework you bring in and you get a grade, and it's part of the center work done in the classroom was basically used for grades. And children in an urban setting can't wander, because you thought 15 minutes was a lot. They'll take a half hour, and they can find ways to hide. They're just more good at it. They're more street savvy. I don't know how to explain it. They're just more street savvy. And so we found a way, it's called the push-in model, where the adults go into the classroom. The kids never leave. They go to the bathroom as a group. They go to lunch as a group. They go to gym as a group. They don't we never did bathroom breaks. Bathroom was in your schedule, and you would get up as a group, and everyone would go to the bathroom at the same time. Of course, there's emergencies, and of course, kids have to go to the bathroom. They sign in, they sign out, but they knew no dilly-dallying. A principal, a vice principal, an adjustment counselor, and the reading coach were monitoring the halls. I was walking in classrooms. I was looking at instructional strategies. I was looking at implementation. I was looking for engagement. The principal, she was the one looking at the teachers if they were she's the only one who could look at them and say, oh, you're doing a good job. That wasn't my role. I couldn't say this is a poor teacher. She could ask my opinion, but I never told the teacher they were on the verge of getting fired. That was not my position. My position was like, the students aren't really engaged, and Mrs. Smith isn't really happy. Is it something going on at home with Mrs. Smith? Is she not getting how to do this? Maybe if I model for her, maybe I can show her a couple tricks. That's what I was looking for. She is the one giving them, okay, you're a good teacher or you're a bad teacher. You need, we'll put you on a plan. That's the principal's role. I couldn't evaluate anyone. That wasn't my role. So I looked at other things. I could have my back to the teacher. Didn't need to see the teacher. I just need to hear her inflection, hear her tone, hear the kids responding, see the kids working at seat work, see the para, her interactions with the students. Again, I couldn't evaluate the para, but I could give my opinion if she was engaging with the students, if she understood how to do the instructional strategies, if she needed more support in that regard. But I couldn't evaluate her as a person and say she should be fired. That wasn't my role. And again, with the interventionist, once a peer of mine, remember, I was an interventionist, and then I was put into this other role, making less money than some of the teachers and the other people in the school. So it really wasn't, I wasn't a supervisor. I was at the same level as them, but now I had a different role. My role, and it took a little while, I would say, for the other teachers to accept someone who was not supervisory to give them feedback. But once you get over that and you weed out those people who can't accept that, they were given great recommendations to move to another school in the district. They were always promised a job somewhere. Once you got rid of that element, it was like a little train, and the train kept going, and the train kept going up that hill, and the hill was getting steeper sometimes, and then it flattened out, and then it go down, and then go up again. And that's how education is never flat. There's always turns and twists and downs and ups, and then there's a fire drill. You can throw out your entire day about one little fire drill. Yeah. But at least we know they're planned. But a fire drill can throw off a whole schedule. Your entire day can be shot for a fire drill. And they still had field day, and they still had assemblies, and they still had field trips. But planned, and try to coordinate so that disruptions weren't too big.
That observation you made in the prior school about the dilly-dallying and 15 minutes late, and then turning it into what you had turned it into with the groups and the diligence is just phenomenal. And everything you're talking about kind of sounds like a business. It is run like a business. Absolutely. And that was an observation that
it's not personal.
Yeah.
Because if it's efficient, it's not personal. You got to take the personal out of it. Teachers get hung up on feelings a lot. And that's the new wave I started to see as I got out of education and went into consulting. It was like, I don't feel valued. I don't feel loved. And I'm like, I didn't know this was about you. That was one of my tag phrases. And people would say I was callous and I was cold. But again, this was never about you. Your whole job is about them. And once you get that part, your ego out of it, because education can be very rewarding if your ego is not blocking it. If you're looking to get vicarious feelings or affirmations from students, you need that for teaching, you're in the wrong profession. It's nice. It's wonderful when you see students that you said, Miss, I went to college because of you. I did this because of you. Or I used to tell my students when we learned a new strategy or skill, I tell them they were wearing an imaginary hip waist pocket thing. I said, we're going to put it in our pocket. And it goes with us everywhere. And we never lose it. Like we could finger spell because we have fingers. And we never lose it. But we can do it down here when we're older. Doesn't mean we don't need the support. But not everyone has to see you finger spelling in the air. You can tap your leg, I said. And you can be a finger speller that way. If it helps you, use it. It's a tool in your toolbox. I used to see high schoolers say, I still have my toolbox with me. And you would say, it's a strategy, it's a technique. But it was implanted that they could do it. It's something you take with you. And as a teacher, if I need to, that's the affirmation I get. I'll take 1 or 2. I maybe had 5 in my whole career. I got 1 note. I have it still from my principal that I was doing a good job. 1. That's all I needed. I didn't need to hear every day how wonderful I was and what a wonderful job. That's not what it's about. The test score is going through the roof, and the excitement in the students and the teachers coming to work every day, not calling out sick, and just a pleasure. The pleasure that's the pleasure. But if you're in for teaching, I take English teachers. They'll probably all hate me, but English teachers are so passionate about what they teach because they get into the literature, and they're almost like transportive, and they can be very dramatic, and I appreciate that. But if you have a kid with his head down and he's not getting into Beowulf like you do, and all of a sudden he's a terrible person, I go, how did that happen? And what does that make? Because he doesn't love Beowulf like you did. I hated Beowulf, so that's the one what comes. And I remember Mrs. Pincus yelling at me, going, not understanding Beowulf, and I'm like, it's esoteric 15th century writing. I don't understand half the language because you're not taking any time to explain it to me. So I'm checking out. A typical high schooler, right?
Right.
So if you can start teaching students strategies when they're younger, and it's not about you, and you move those kids on, and they come back to visit you as high schoolers, which they do at my old school. She might have a lot of teachers I still follow on Facebook, and their kids come to visit them at school. I love it. She goes, so and so came back to visit me, or they came back to parent night with their little brother or sister, and they were so excited to see me. That's what you live for. You don't live for the instant but we live in an instant gratification world, and people are human, and it's not something you can totally get rid of. So that's why I said, if you need something for your classroom, I had a teacher, she was like, too short to point to something, and she was like, that, and the kids were like, what?
Yes.
I went and got her a pointer. I bought it, came in the next day, I went in her classroom, I go, there, and I was being her, and she was like, she was like, I can't believe you bought that for me. I was out sometimes, I would see something, I knew one teacher liked frogs, and I found these folders that were all frogs out of my own pocket. I bought them for her and brought it to her. She was thrilled. Silly stuff like that. But that drives the school. Making people happy is much more reflective in your teaching, and it reflects back and forth. It's a mirror. Like I said, remember, if you're at the dentist, they're at the dentist. If they're unhappy, you're unhappy. Because kids want to naturally please you, and they want to naturally please the teacher. So it's a psychology cycle that you can totally utilize to increase performance, to increase engagement, and that's the important part of education, is that students are engaged. Any material you can make anything engaging, I think, but you have to put a little effort into it. You can't be like that, like the movie, he's talks like that, like monotone. You have to. I have a lot of teachers who stand in one spot, and I'll say to them, "You're a great teacher. You need to move." Why? I said, kids can't focus on one spot all day long. You need to move and
absolutely
do some timelining, which is like you give them a point of information in one spot, a point of information in another spot. You may do it 3 or 4 times depending on the level of kids, and you go back to this one point and say, what did I say here? Can anyone remember? And now they know it's a game. So now they're focused. So could you have a reward system in your class? Of course. But you got to know what drives those students. And I know in classrooms where kids go and move, like middle school and high school, it's a little different. But work with the teachers. Figure it out. It may take a year. Nobody wants to take a year to kind of build this. And that's where it gets tripped up. Because no one wants to take the time. They all want to get through their curriculum. They want to put their grades in. They want to go home. That engagement, those tokenisms, the rewards, the way to move the kids, the way the engagement does take a year or more to build. But building as a team, if it's all done the same, but it doesn't have to be the same reward. Every classroom got a little flexibility in that regard because that's personality. The way you decorated your room, remember I told you it was you could pick your own colors, your own borders, that's personality. So they could pick their own mascots. We are the whatever snowflakes. They could do that. So as they move through a model and are getting better at education and getting better at delivery, because all of a sudden all that stress is gone because we have common planning. Now you don't go to a lot of schools and find where you're given an extra block of free time in elementary school.
That's right.
To plan together. Oh, I have an extra planning block. Maybe I'll go shopping online. You know how many teachers I've caught shopping online? I can't even begin to tell you, hundreds. I said, and then forget to turn off the big screen that goes to the TV. And they have all this technology today where it goes to a TV and the TV's on, so your computer's the TV. And I'll say, oh, I didn't know that was on Amazon. And the teacher's like, oh my God.
That's hilarious.
It's hilarious, but it's not.
So it sounds like there's a lot of psychology involved in what you got going on between the curriculums and the programs and installing it and making sure the kids like it and show up to school.
Oh, that's always part of it, having them be ever present, but it's not easy. You'll have those kids who inevitably have high absenteeism. They'll have a lot of family issues, hence the adjustment or counselor or guidance counselor, whatever you want to call it. It's got to be a strong fixture in this program, in this machine, I want to call it. But the principal's number one. Your adjustment counselor and your reading specialist and your vice principal. Let's not forget the janitor, who the kids see every day, who love every day. We call him my husband is in the commercial cleaning business. He called them the one who doesn't do anything, just talks all day, because he sees the kids, he knows the kids.
100%.
But the cooks, in the cafeteria, your music teacher, your art teacher, your gym teacher, all have to have the same strategies, same talk, same walk. You think the nurse, and how's that read naturally going? Are you doing your repeated readings as she's looking for lice on your head? That's part of being a whole. The secretaries in the school know the language. Everyone spoke the same language. In lunch, we were doing called tier 2 vocabulary, and we're building up their vocabulary because everything's written in the world at 4th grade level. Most of the reading you pick up is about 4th grade. Any newspaper is written at a 4th grade level. So we're trying to boost their vocabulary. They're not getting exposed in an urban setting as much as from parents talking in a higher level than that. So our vice principal was the boss at lunch. She's the one who runs the lunch. And also all of a sudden you have the word of the week or the words of the week, and we had them posted up in the cafeteria. And she'd go over the vocabulary at the beginning of the week, what they meant, use them in a sentence, and she'd say them again. And the repeated practice is important. And then towards the end of the week, she would say, who can come up and want to talk about this word? Who can tell me what it means? Well, they've heard it for 2 or 3 days. And one comes up, they get to talk on the microphone. They get to be the vice principal, and they get to talk about the vocabulary of the week. And if we caught it in their writing, remember, walking around the school, monitoring the student work, encouraging good engagement, but also catching a tier 2 word in writing. I see it. There was a tier 2 dance that we all learned, like the Elaine, like something silly. So when you saw a tier 2 word being used folded into their writing, you would be like this crazy person. I see a tier 2 word, and be excited for them. And the kids knew it, and they got a special sticker or they got something. The cook staff. Now, remember, cook staff are probably not even graduated high school. These are people who are just working for a living, blue-collar people. They got involved. They would use the words if it was applicable with the kids. So when you have that kind of exposure from the nurse to the cook staff to the janitor to the secretary to everybody breathing in that school that's an adult that interacts with students, that speaks the same language and supports the same thing. Now, that's just one example. We had all sorts of things going on, but it was all folded. When you have something all folded like that, where they feel that secure, everybody's caring about me, everyone notices what I'm doing, it's amazing.
So that level of organization is probably very difficult to get to.
Nope, it's not.
Okay, tell me.
Again, when you hire your teachers, you have a problem doing what I tell you to do and how I tell you to do it. When you hire your paraprofessionals, when you hire your cook staff, when you hire your janitor, when you hire your nurse, it's the same. You're the boss. You are the CEO of this organization. If you take it to that level, no, it's not hard.
Absolutely.
And it's actually supportive for an employee. If you look at it from the other perspective, I have someone who's going to stand in front of the fan, take the crap, put her job on the line if this doesn't work, or continually support me by acknowledging my work. Maybe I'm the star teacher of the week. Don't you think at a faculty meeting that she stood up and said, I was in Miss So-and-so's class and I saw the best lesson and the best use of this, and oh my God, could you, at the next faculty meeting, we're going to have a faculty share meeting, not always just me talking, could you share that technique I saw you do? Well, doesn't that elevate someone? Doesn't that make them feel like they're important?
Absolutely.
So you kind of have to, it's kind of bigger than just picking the right person to run a school, but at the same time, that person has to enforce, has to accountability. You could walk into school any day and my principal would say, second grade teachers, plan books to the office now. Send a student with your plan book. No rhyme, no reason who is going to get the plan book called. In your plan book, they're digital now probably, but that doesn't matter. You have to have it help printed because I may pick it up and see what you want to see what you're doing. Are you teaching this lesson that's on the calendar on this day, on this hour, this time? Accountability. If you're accountable to the taxpayers that are paying your salary, now that's a whole nother thing too. Thinking your money doesn't grow on a tree somewhere. It's coming out of taxpayers' pockets. It's very important that a concept that teachers have to understand. This is a critical factor here of being responsible, being transparent to the community, who you serve. You're like a police officer, a firefighter. If you want to think about it that way, you're a frontline person.
Absolutely.
With the wee ones, but you are the frontline person. If you kind of like get your head around that and you figure, I represent, they're trusting me to do this job a certain way, and I'm going to make sure I do it this way. You're representing the teachers. I'm part of that group. I'm a fireman. I'm a policeman. It's the same thing. You're all they're all public employees mostly, unless it's a private school, and that is the totally different ball of wax. But I'm talking about public schools.
Yeah.
You have to have that accountability. So you have a CEO, you have a CFO, which was someone like me who crunched the numbers, time on task. We talked about a student not getting enough time with the special ed teacher because they were traveling to the special ed teacher instead of being the teacher traveling to them. That's where data comes into play, where you collect data and you analyze data. And the data, it's almost like that AI Elon Musk-y kind of stuff, where they are looking at numbers. You can crunch the numbers to the point where you can say, Fred saw the classroom para for 100 hours doing Read Naturally, but he made no gains. And he had 100 hours with an interventionist and made no gains. Why would you wait 100 hours? We had assessments that were weekly in our school for just reading that would come, and I have to analyze them, and I could look at them week to week. And if I didn't see, after 2 weeks, if I didn't see any kind of growth, I would have a little tete-a-tete with the interventionist, the para, or the classroom teacher to figure out what was going on. You don't wait until the end of the quarter, or you don't wait till the end of the school year. you catch those things as they happen. So that's an integral part too, is having assessments and accountability. A good principal will also have people that she delegates to, because you can't carry this all by yourself. No one's expecting a principal to be able to do all this, but they do delegate, and those people aren't, like I said, supervisors or evaluators of personnel. They're there to support. And if you know what your role is, and then you're the classroom teacher and you know what your role is, and you're the paraprofessional and you know what your role is. I'm talking about a lot of bodies here. And you go to school, I don't have enough people. If you really look at it, you have in a suburban school like Longmeadow, parents like me who followed their kid to school. Remember the story I told you? I followed my son to school. I had a master's in education. If you don't utilize that help, that's free. I know someone who lives in Longmeadow. Her kids are grown. She volunteers at Boland. She is an actuary. Not a stupid person. You probably could train her in Read Naturally. She could do it if you can get volunteers, and you can get ones that will come in all the time, not just read to kids in a small group, which is good. I'm not saying it's not good, but if you have a need and that person's willing to get trained in an intervention that could help you, or is it just reading to students and working on maybe your higher levels, and if you took them out of the equation, you could work with the weaker ones, and just have her just work with them and give her guided question and answers, and let the kids work together collaboratively, whatever. I mean, there's lots of different scenarios, but there are ways. I don't have, like in my model, we had a classroom pair in every room. I had an interventionist who pushed in for reading and math, not science or social studies, but reading and math.
So it sounds like knowing the boundaries, knowing where you are, knowing the role you're in the organization is what creates this.
Well, doesn't that make you, if you knew, let's say you had a boss you had to please, and you knew the criteria for your job. You knew what it was. You knew what the expectations were. Wouldn't that, your achievement would be, and you got support along the way. You're not left high and dry. There's a lot of young teachers, and some of them are my relatives. I have two nieces that both worked in New York City schools. Want to live in New York, want to work in New York City public schools. God bless them. No support. One worked in school in Springfield. No support. They both left education because of no support. The biggest issue with young teachers is you're taking what they remember as an education model, and that's what they expect to kind of happen, and the kids aren't the same children that they were. So your expectations and what's happening are totally different. And then even at the college level, I haven't been working with a lot of professors to kind of say, okay, what are you matching what the needs are? Could be a gap there that needs to kind of be reevaluated, and especially with like online learning, there's, I think, a gap there of how to do it well and how to have the students be successful in the monitoring all of that. That's where I think there's a little bit of an, reality versus it can work. And it can work in certain situations, but we're finding that through COVID, because it was all slapped together so quickly, that the Zooming of teaching students, especially with high needs, wasn't as successful because you can't catch what you can't see. And I think online is great for learning for some students, but maybe not for all. But I don't know how to get around that. If that's one thing that's interesting. It's an interesting concept.
Yeah, and you can't catch what you can't see. I mean, the boundaries and the expectation. You're right when you say, like, if I know exactly what I need to be doing in this team, I can do it, and I can do it my best. And if my teammates are coming behind me and supporting me too,
totally supporting. I'm still close with the teachers. If I walk into that school, if I brought you there and took you on, I would love to. I could probably make it happen. They're closed for the year though, but in September, if I could reach out to the new principal of that school, where about 80% of the teachers still work there that I worked with. I would be. You would be amazed. That the teachers run up to me and hug me and can't wait to see me. And I haven't been there in 11 years. So it's one of those things that it's an amazing place. It was an amazing place to work. And it's one of those like, I love my job, and you say that and you really mean it. And I know there's teachers out there that are passionate about what they do, but if they're in the right situation, scenario, wow, home run, out of the park, hit it out of the park, that's what it was every day. I would come home. I said, people would say, how was work today? I was a Valhalla. I said, that's where I was working. I was working in this magical place that you can't even imagine that it was work. Like, people are paying us to do this. It was hard and it was long. And she would say, you are going to go home as tired as the students. And she would tell the parents at parents' night, your kids are coming home tired, but that's good. That means they're learning, they're using their brain. I mean, we'd say that it was their job. This is your job. You have a job to do. I have a job to do. Your job is to be the best student you can be. And what you're lacking right now, is maybe your power. We had this thing about power. We say you have power. You can keep your power, and you can lose your power. And I can help you find your power, or I can give you some of my power. And we knew that intrinsically, internally, everyone can monitor themselves. Now, there are genetics in kids who are impulsive, and there's always outliers, correct?
Yeah.
But for the most part, we all go to church, right?
Right.
Most of us go to church. You understand the concept of church. You go to church, there's an expectation. Are you dancing and standing on the pews, and are you waving or yelling when someone's doing a reading? No, there's expectations, and it's almost, that's what it's an intrinsic thing. You know what to do. You go to church, you're quiet, you listen, you talk when you're supposed to talk, you sing when you're supposed to sing. It's basically the same thing. I would say, I wouldn't say, Johnny, you're losing your power. I said, Mrs. Nassar is so sad. Someone's lost their power. What can I do? Can I give them a second chance? Mrs. Nassar, give them a second chance. I would love to give them a second chance. Do they need some power? I'll give them some of my power. Or you have a conversation quietly afterwards saying, I know it's been a tough day. And they would earn stickers with me when I was an interventionist on the outside of, we had a notebook that was like part of their grade. They used to keep track of, they're practicing writing a sentence. We're learning how to build a sentence. We're going to write it down. We're going to practice them. We had a notebook in the intervention group. And I would put stickers on the outside every day if they did well. And if they didn't get a sticker that day, I would keep them, and they'd say, I know you didn't earn a sticker today, but tomorrow you do a great job. You're going to get 2. So they would be caught up with their peer. It wasn't like I gave them the opportunity to come back with power, empower them that they can do, and I know they can do it. I know that so that is kind of like the mantra. And just as a teacher, if you just take that, it's right, I'm right, you're wrong, it's this way or the highway, or like a parent. It's different. It's almost like if you're like a grandparent, if you get what I mean.
Yeah.
A classroom runs better when you're strict like a grandparent, but you're also nice like a grandparent.
Because of that softening of time.
But a little bit, not as harsh as a parent. Now, some kids need strict classrooms. I thought our school was like a Catholic school without nuns. It was run pretty strictly. The principal was the biggest nun. The kids knew it. She wore her glasses to school. That day we all knew to stay away. She didn't have her contacts in. She was not having a good day. Even the kids knew. Mrs. Drugan's has a headache today. We're not causing any trouble because she's not, and they cared about her. So they knew. So when you get to that level where even the kids know that the principal's not wearing her contacts today because she's got a headache, you made it. The whole school's buzzing like it was running like a top. So it can be done. It can be done, but it has to start with the personnel. It's got to start with running it like a business, like you said that, and I totally agree. But also, accountability is a big thing. Having the right funding to get what you need, the training you need, so everybody talks the same language, speaks the same language, is cohesiveness. That's a big part. And it does take time. Everyone's dreaded word, the 4-letter word that no one likes is time. It takes a year to build a curriculum, a collaborative curriculum with your peers. But next year, is it disappeared? Did someone throw it in the trash? It's still there. Will it need to be tweaked? Could you find something, a better center? Oh, I found this center online. Teachers Pay Teachers exploded when I was in education, where teachers created center materials in their classroom. That one site helped teachers tremendously, and we would pay for subscriptions if that would make their life easier. But then they would find ready-made centers. You need laminators? I'll buy you all laminators. You need laminating paper? I'll buy you laminating paper. You find the money, the budget. You go to your PTOs and say, yeah, a trip to Boston would be nice, but every classroom teacher needs a laminator and laminating paper this year. Let's do that instead. We'll do a virtual Boston tour. Put them in the auditorium and they see a virtual tour. You have to make concessions and decisions. What's more important? I still have 2 laminators at my house.
Beautiful.
Because laminators are important. I have laminating paper still. I have teacher materials like you can't believe. I can't get rid of them. I still hold on to things because I don't know if I'm going to go out and consult and I may need them. So I still keep on holding on to these small little things that you can help a teacher, help a friend, whatever it is. I just think it's a great job if you're the right person for that job. And that's the part that's the rub. College will say, oh, you're not doing well in this, you're not doing it else. Maybe you should go try education. It's a tough job. It's not easy. And I don't think it should be treated as, oh, you didn't do well in here, just go teach. But that's not everyone can teach. It is and when you're in an environment like I was, it's fabulous. But I haven't seen it duplicated too many times. And when I do see a teacher like that, I get really excited. But I'd like to see a whole school like that again. It was very exciting to see a whole school like that.
Yeah, Maria, this was a phenomenal. This is phenomenal. I mean, you're electric, but the time's
so
up.
Sweet. Oh, thank God. It was my pleasure.
Awesome, and I'm sure I'll have you again. I'd love to. You got so much to say.
I do.
I know I love it. So
no, anything you need, I'd be glad to help. And like I said, I could even answer questions.
Awesome.
That's easy. If people want to give you questions that you need answers to, we could even do something like that. Feedback.
Beautiful.
Perfect.
All right. Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Maria, thank you so much for the time that you gave me in this conversation. This was a killer conversation. Like I said, it was one of my favorite conversations. And your good energy, it's contagious. I want you to know that. And I really look forward to the next time that we could spend together. So thank you again. And anybody who watched this conversation, please comment, DM me what you've learned. Like, subscribe, share with your friends, share with your family, share with whoever that you can, because I feel like the information that is in this conversation is absolutely helpful in so many different ways that I'm sure I can't even imagine. Like Maria said, we have to work like a team. We have to be on the same page, and we are all trying to be the best character that we could possibly be, right? At least that's where the idea is here in these conversations and talking with these amazing people. So again, please reach out, talk to me. I'm here. I really look forward to hearing from you. Thank you so much for your time. Till the next time.